And how we doing tonight, folks? Yeah, Thrash Pondo's here. And I'm thinking tonight I had a request from special friend of channel Sir Lancelot that we cover Scream Queens tonight. Now it's something we haven't talked about in a while. Um and I'm going to expand it a little bit. It's not going to be just Scream Queens. It's any heroin, the character, not the illicit drug, that we see in science fiction and horror films. Scream Queens is sort of a narrow band. They're sort of they basically play the victim more often than not. Although a lot of them do end up becoming the heroes. But whoever your favorite science fiction slash horror female characters, and what the heck, we'll talk about the males too. But Lance Chafin, speak of the devil. Lance Chafin in the house says, "How you thrash, Lance? Glad you can make it." I was just covering our topic for the night, which of course will be Scream Queens. I'm letting people expand it a little bit as they see fit. John Doe in the house saying, "The Italian god of coolness is here. Hello, Italian god." Hungry Jerk Tom says, "Hey, Bob, and hey to you." Big Guys 45 says, "Just got to 900 today." And hi, fan. I'm going to put my glasses on. You can see I'm already struggling. When they start scrolling, it's even harder for me to focus. So I'm just going to throw these on. Tracy Rothmeyer says, "Hi, Robert." Cindy DD says, "Hello, everyone." Gary Carpenter says, "I'm here." Keith E says, "Hey, hey, hey. It's Fat Albert is here." Oh, who else we got? Georgia Eye Ears. Oh my God, it's been too long, Georgia. So nice to see you. How was your Christmas? So good. Everybody say hi to Georgia. I don't think we've seen her in a while. I know I painted a vivid picture. George, it's so nice to have you with us tonight. Tom Lemery is in the house. Hey, Thrash. Hi, everyone. Retro Nerd Girl says, "Hello, Thrash." Retro, hi to you too. So glad you could make it. Wow, I just got a link that I had a live show tonight. Good thing, too. Everybody's saying hello to everybody. That's very, very nice of you. Says we complain. Ah, Daily Dan's the good stuff says, "Greetings from South Carolina." Moving forward. Merry Christmas to all. Yes, in case I hadn't said anything to you individually, I hope you all had a very, very good Christmas. And, of course, Happy New Year, which Dan then goes on to say. George Years says, "It was very good. How was yours?" Mine was good. Mine was very subdued. Daughter brought her boyfriend over, and my brother-in-law came over, and it was just so basically the immediate members of the household plus two more. It was nice, a nice subdued quiet, and we did presents on Christmas Eve, and then had a total pajama day on Christmas Day, which is heaven to me. My goal is to never leave the house. Tom says, "All these wrenches tonight. Hopefully we won't need them." Although, Tom, I'm glad you mentioned that, by the way. Thank you very much. Yes, I do have a lot of mods, and I appreciate every single one of them. And you guys have been such help, particularly during the bot wars and the troll conflicts that this analyst has. I did, and not get on a serious note. I did get a what one of my friend of channel said he noticed he's been getting timed out, and he noticed some of the other people have been getting timed out. At least they told him that they too were getting timed out. I understand timeouts are things you can do to people when they start to get maybe a little out of hand, but can we please reside it to really foul language or things that are directly confrontational? Can we try to cut it back? I mean, I appreciate everything you people have done. I so do. But again, remember we're all friends here, and sometimes friends do go a little bit too far. So please don't tag somebody if they're just pushing the envelope. God knows I've been accused of pushing the envelope. But that being said, I want to thank every single one of you guys. Are great. Let's see. Oh, Mr. Led is here. Hey, gang. Hey, Thrash. Just checked in. Only one like. Hit the button, please. Well, there's two now, but there's 13 in the chat. So we can do. Oh, there's up to four. Thank you. Lance Chafin says, "Everyone, I feel a lot better now. Thanks for the well wishes." Yeah, Dan, sorry. Lance was under the weather for a while. We were pulling for you. So I remember you mentioned the other day when I talked to you that you were starting to feel better. I'm glad you continue to mend. Dilly Dan says, "Not to be a buzzkill, but the best part of Christmas is that it is over." Yeah, I think when you get up to that very, very, very last moment, you just kind of want to. Oh, Tom says, "Bob, text me your address." I thought I did. I'm so sorry, man. I thought I did. I will. I meant to call you today. I was just getting ready to do the show, and time got away from me. My wife works late today, so when she got home, I had to. I was making her dinner because I had the day off. But I meant to call you, and I sorry. But yes, I will text you my address with all speed. Oh, and Dan, next time you talk to my flock, tell her. I guess my number got dumped when her phone died. Um, I promise her I'll text her ASAP. John Doe says, "Looking forward to spring now so Coney Island can open." Have anyone been to Coney Island? I'm assuming, well, there's two. There's the one in New York, but the one I remember as from Worcester, not Worcester, Worcester, as from Worcester, Mass. I remember Coney Island hot dog, and they have the best hot dogs on the planet. Recently had their 100th anniversary. Oh, Cindy D just said something. I've never timed anyone. I'm sorry, I've never timed out anyone. Cindy, thank you, by the way. Again, if you haven't, disregard. I have a lot, as you guys have noticed, I have a lot of mods. So please, if this doesn't pertain to you, just let it right past you. I just a friend of channel mentioned to me, and so I thought I would throw it out there. But again, you guys, and I never realized up until very, very recently that this was even at issue. The only time I ever thought you guys sprung into action when we were getting attacked by trolls and bots and troll bots and bot trolls, and God knows you guys were wonderful there. This actually may have just been like an isolated incident. One person even said it may have been happening inadvertently because the screen jumps very rapidly, particularly when the trolls are on there because they're doing rapid fire comments. It's entirely possible it was done inadvertently. I just figured it might be nice to mention it out there. Big Guy says the glitch is over. At least I think it is. It's a Christmas miracle, literally. John Bernstein says there's five. John Bernstein, welcome to the party. And there's 10 now. So we are moving up, up, up in a puff of smoke, as the saying goes. Tom says, John, I've been to Coney Island 40 years ago. At least I've said I've been there. I'm assuming you mean the one in New York and not the one in Worcester, Mass. Although you could have gone to Coney Island and Worcester because you too were a New England boy. Trinity Thoras Meyer says, I am getting ignored. He, um, I would never, ever ignore you, Tracy, ever. A lot of people saying hello to each other. Oh, Tom says, I'd never ignore you, Tracy. A lot of people would never, ever, ever ignore you. Cindy D says, love to you too, Tracy. Georgia Ayers says, am I pronouncing your name right? Georgia Ayers. I've always wondered about that. It could have been I was mispronouncing it, you just being nice about it. The bad part of Christmas being over is when my birthday comes and goes. My grandmother had a December birthday, so I'm sure she would know how you feel. Gary Carpenter says, I've always wanted to see it. I assume you mean Coney Island. Keith E says, just went out to the lobby and it's still showing 0 thumbs up. Oh, really? I see 10. John Bernstein says, until we have another John in the house, I think I'm just going to call you John, just for simplicity's sake. John says, you have to go to Detroit for the best Coney dogs, Lafayette Cafe. Gary Carpenter says, water off a duck's back. That's the spirit, young man. That's the spirit. Uh, Mandy Butler is in the house, says enjoying the chat. Mandy, thank you so much for joining. You said you were going to make it. I'm so glad you did. Mandy Butler is joining the chat. Oh, and by the way, as the suggestion for Lance Chafin today, he suggested Scream Queens, which we haven't talked about in some time. Sci-fi horror movie Scream Queens. I would say any science fiction horror movie heroine. And if you want to throw in some male actors as well, why not? We're equal opportunity here. Tracy Rosmeyer says, "You guys are great. I feel like Robert is ignoring me. LOL. I would never ignore you. I would never ignore. I'm so, so sorry." Tom Lemery says, "The only ones I've reported, they were true bots." Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, see, there's another setting. I didn't even know you could do this. Dave mentioned it to me. I just completely forgot. There's something called a timeout where you don't actually just sort of kick them into no man's land. You take them out of the chat and they can come back a little bit later. But again, it may have been some kind of glitch. Tom says, "Hope Dave and Pat show up tonight." I certainly do as well. Lance Chafin says, "Hit that like button, folks, please, and thank you." Uh, John Doe says, John Doe says Coney Island in New York City. Nathan's Hot Dogs on the boardwalk is the best and original Nathan's in New York City. Too true. John Collins says, "Hello, Bob, and everyone. I'm here now. Please commence. I apologize for my tardiness, John. It's not a party till you get here. Don't you worry, you." Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry I couldn't open that link you sent. By the way, if you want to, if you maybe can send it to me on Facebook, I'll try again later. Uh, uh, Gary Cameron says, "LC, I've already done that." Big guy says, "Now I'm on my way to 1K finally." Gary Carpenter says, "Buffering here." Anyone else getting any buffering? Hopefully it's isolated. Tom says, "I'm going back to Boston next year. Then I get to meet meet. I'm guessing he meant pawns. Definitely. Let me know when you're getting here. We can meet, I don't know, somewhere in the city or I have family in Weymouth. We can meet up at the Braintree, the South Shore Plaza. Well, I'll talk to you before next year anyway. But definitely, if you come out to the Boston area, I will see you. John Bernstein says, "What would taste good now is a pizza puppy." What's a pizza puppy? Is it like a pizza turnover, like a calzone? I love me calzones. Big guy says, "I haven't seen Music Girl here in a long time." She works nights and oftentimes doesn't get back until we're just signing off. So that's an issue at, I'm afraid. Mandy Butler says, "Just listening tonight." Listening is fine, but if you want to interject a comment or two, we'll be here. Daily Dan says, "I see 10." I just saw 11. Georgia says, "Proper pronunciation is the AI." I'm assuming the iRes. iRes. I'll try iRes. But, I'm just going to say Georgia for the purposes of this show. Cindy D says, "Jamie Lee Curtis is the ultimate scream queens." Couldn't agree with you more. And she did many other horror movies and science fiction films besides Halloween franchise. So I couldn't agree with you more. But she was also pretty badass as well. So I think she covered both heroine and scream queen. Tom Lemery says, "Message retracted," and a message retracted to you as well. Tracy Myers says, "I never put anyone in timeout." Again, thank you. And again, I'm not even sure who it applied to. I just wanted to be read in the record, but I'm not pointing any fingers at any of you, other than to say I appreciate all of you. So now I'm saying I appreciate all of you. So I will point my fingers to that. So, but again, if it doesn't apply to you, do not worry about it. Like I said, you guys have actually been a godsend throughout, um, and I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your help in keeping the bots and trolls from. They don't even bother us now. Watch, they're going to show up now. Mr. Lynn says, "Who's the real scream queen, Adrienne Barbeau or Jamie Lee Curtis?" Uh, ooh, Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, narrowly edges it up, but Adrienne Barbeau, she's up there. Gary Carpenter says Cindy Faye Ray. They say Faye Ray was the original. There were probably some before her, but that was silent film. But Faye Ray was the original Scream Queen, shall we say? And Cindy D stands by Jamie Lee to Mr. Led, as do I. Bobby Renee says, "Hi Thrash, I'm a new sub. Bobby, welcome to the party. That's just awesome. Tonight we're talking about Scream Queens from classic sci-fi horror movies specifically. Feel free to chime in with whatever picks you have." Tom says they have a magazine called Scream Queens. I had heard of that. I haven't seen it. There was actually a TV show called it too, by the way. Lance Javen says Jamie Lee Curtis or her mom Jeanette Lee. Great point. You have generational Scream Queens right there. John Doe says, Brink Stevenson is the best 80s Scream Queen. That's a bell ringing in my head. Refresh my memory. What is she best known for? Trace Rossmeyer says, share this post on your favorite social media. Let's get Robert to 500. That's a great idea. What she said. You see, Tracy, like I say, I appreciate every single one of you. You guys are great. You guys are my heroes. You guys are my friends, my family. Got my back, my posse. I'll stop now. Oh, Daryl Johnson in the house says, Bob, Daryl, so good to see you. Uh, I skipped back a little bit because I think I missed a couple. Gary Carpenter says to HJ, "There's a character called Scream Queen in the DC Comics." Cindy D says, "True, Lance Chaffin. Her mother was one as well. Exactly, generational." Mr. Lid says, "I say Jamie Lee too, but I read somewhere that some say Adrienne Barbeau. There's no wrong answer. It's a matter of personal choice, and she certainly was a Scream Queen. The Fog, probably best off the top of my head. But of course, Creep Show. How could you not love her in Creep Show? She played such a Karen. Tom says, did not know that. Thanks. Lance Javen says, the blood in Psycho was Hershey's syrup. It certainly was. I believe it was Bosco in Night of the Living Dead. There's another one. The woman who played Barbara, whose name just went out of my mind, but she's considered a Scream Queen as well. O'Day, Judy O'Day, from Night of the Living Dead. All I got is water now. I drank all my soda. Cindy D says Georgia on Thrash's mind. LOL. Georgia's on my mind. Yeah. I've used that myself actually. John Bernstein says pizza puppies were available everywhere when I was a kid. It was a square piece of pepperoni pizza wrapped around a hot dog. Oh, dude. Oh, I remember they used to have pizza dogs at Orange Julius. So basically, what you're doing is you're using a Sicilian square piece of pizza as the bun for the hot dog. Love it. Absolutely love it. Tom says, love Italian food, my fave, so fattening. Georgia says, oh, great. Oh, speaking of which, everybody congratulate Tom. He starts a new job this week. I believe he said Wednesday. It's at an Italian restaurant. He says he's going to double in size. I must confess, I know the feeling. I looked like Pat when I got my job at an Italian restaurant. Cindy D says, we appreciate you too, Thrash. No, Cindy, you may appreciate me, but I appreciate you guys far, far, far more. I couldn't do this without you guys. Well, I could. I'd just be standing here talking to myself. It would be pathetic. Superplex is in the house. Zoop, how you doing? Hola, patron. ¿Qué pasa? He says, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year. All in that order. It's day 5 of Hanukkah. I lost count. But Tracy, Happy Hanukkah. And to all whom it applies to. Keith E says, wise guy that he is. Keith E says, can I time myself out? Yeah, you can just shut your computer off, but I hope you don't because it's great to see you. Bob Renee says, yay, and yay to you, Bob. Gary Carpenter says, Georgia, are you familiar with the actor Lou Ayres? From all Quen of the Western Front and Brain from Planet Aris. I'm familiar with them at least. John Doe says numbers are coming up. Yeah, I got like 4 new subscriptions this week. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but considering I hadn't had any in like a month and I'd actually lost a couple, and I think Bobby, welcome to the party again. It bears repeating. Makes it 5. 5 in a week for me, not bad. If I can just repeat the process a few dozen times, I'll actually get to 500 very, very soon. John Collins says, and I'm sorry, my computer just froze. Oh, there he goes. I'll have to backtrack a little bit here. John Collins says, wow, how did I get so far behind? He says, Bob, a few months ago, a new year ago, you did a very, I'm sorry, I'll come in again. Bob, a few months ago, a year ago, you did a short, very emotional, sentimental presentation greeting a little one to the world, maybe a nephew or grandson. Have you had a chance to meet them in person yet? That was baby Hap. That's my niece, and sadly, no, we have not managed to get down to North Carolina. No, they have come up to here. Bobby Renee says, host my sister is a scream queen. What movies has she been in? A lot of people saying hello to each other. Georgia says, yes, different spelling on the last name. John Bernstein says, Lou Ayers was James Arnezz's brother. I thought Peter Graves was James Arnezz's brother. Did he have 2 brothers? He got around. Cindy D says, who's the Scream Queen? King? Anthony Perkins? Evan Peters is considered a Scream King. I say the best Scream King of all is Jonathan Harris when he played Dr. Smith in Lost in Space. Oh, the pain, the pain. He screamed more than most Scream Queens. Just skipping down. Tom says, Bob, when I come back to Boston, I'll bring you some good California cider. That sounds awesome sauce. And I'll buy you a Sam Adams. Bob Renee says, hi, Retro. You look so uncomfortable and in trouble in that, uh, I'm guessing, the spacesuit. A lot of people saying hello to Daryl, Zuplex. Zuplex says, there aren't too many Scream Queens. What are you talking about? There's like dozens of them. Most of them are from the 80s. Let's see. Daryl Jones says hi to Cindy. John Doe says, Brink Stevens is a female. Her movies are Nightmare Sisters, Sorority Babes, and the Slime Bowl Ballerama. Is she in that? I just got a copy of that. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't seen it in years, but I love that movie. Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity, Slumber Party Massacre, and Teenage Actresses, just to name a few. Okay, I have to see Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl Ballerama, by the way. Again, I haven't seen it in years, and I have it now. Lance Chavin says, Adrienne King, the first Friday the 13th. Which one was she? Oh, was she the one who is, spoiler alert, is the sole survivor? Mandy Butler says, congratulations. Thank you. Tom says, Gary, my uncle broke some of Weissmuller's swimming records back in the late 30s. That is wicked cool. Johnny Weissmuller, as I'm sure most of you know, was a Tarzan, and he had been an Olympic swimmer and won mega gold medals back in the day. Zublik says, is Tom T. Pons referring to the Hungry Jerk? The words all that I'll extrapolate. Yes, when I say Tom, I mean the Hungry Jerk. He's still, that's still his handle, but he prefers being called Tom. So I've taken to calling him Tom. I assume he just doesn't want to change his screen. And I don't blame him. I'm sorry, I'm very scratchy today for some reason. Gary Carpenter says, oh, did he? Interesting. Yes, same point, I'm sure. Uh, let's just see. Trey Meyer says Lily Taylor rings a bell. What movie was she in? CDD says, okay, I didn't know his name. Gary Carpenter. Good point. Thank you. Zuplik says K Pasa USA. T Pawns. No mucho. Les Javen says Tracy the Conjuring, right? That was just on last night, wasn't it? I saw that in the theaters. Uh, and I just jumped again. So I'm gonna have to go back and make sure I don't miss anything. I'll try to. Oh yeah, here we go. John Bernstein says, "Don't worry, I am not Jewish unless there's brisk." Love a good brisk. Of course, a little brisk outside tonight. Actually, it's warmed up. It's almost 30 degrees. Liz Javen says Dakota Fanning in War of the, and I'm guessing that's Worlds. All she did in that movie was shriek. The entire movie, all she did was shriek. I had a headache at the end of that movie, and I love the original. Retro Nerd Girl says Veronica Cartwright seems to scream in most of the films she did in the 70s, Aliens Body Snatchers remake. That scene, again, spoiler alert, that scene at the end of the 78 Body Snatchers where she like wigs out is like etched into my memory. So, yes, I will definitely give you that one. She is certainly up there. And of course, Alien. I read somewhere that the apparatus misfunctioned and that she wasn't supposed to get sprayed with all the fake blood. And when it did, it freaked her out. And they just kept Ridley Scott kept filming it, but she wasn't supposed to get she wasn't supposed to get she wasn't supposed to get splashed with all the fake blood. So her reaction is actually legitimate, and I always thought that was great. Sublik says you'll have to show nudity on your backdrop in order to raise your subscriber can't talk tonight. Subscriber count T Pawns. Um, I shudder. Not gonna happen. I'm gonna have to get them through just hard work, I'm guessing. Tom says, Gary, look it up. His name was William McCluskey. I think you mentioned him to me once before. Bobby says, Sis was in my family home movie Screaming. Oh, I gotcha. The old 8 millimeters. Yeah. I had one of those cameras myself back in the day. Of course, now everyone's done on videotape. Of course, now it's all done on phones. Zuplik says the robot B9 would scream, Danger, Will Robinson, danger. Good point. Good point. Daryl Johnson says Dr. Smith, bah, into the airlock with him. Retro Nerd Girl says Scream King would be Bryce Campbell for me. Groovy. Lance Javen says Jamie Lee Curtis in Prom Night and Terror Train. Both excellent movies. If you like old slasher horror. Daily Dan says Scream King. How about the goof from Scooby Doo who played Shaggy? He screamed like a little girl. Good point. Mr. Lynn says, I would have to elect Dr. Smith into the space long ago. Oh, I'm sorry. He ejected, not elected. He would have ejected Smith into space long ago. Daryl Johnson says, yep, Mr. Litt, he was a worm. Tom says, our local B9 made up the props for CroftCon. That is awesome. That's amazing. Let's just see. Oh, I was almost caught up and then I jumped again. Mandy Butler said Tarzan. Zerblick says, I can only name two, Faye Ray and Jamie Lee Curtis. Those are both excellent choices. Lance Chavin says Angela from Sleepaway Camp. Retro Nerd Girl says Bobby Renee, I am watching from the far reaches of the galaxy. That's her catchphrase, her slogan. That and with a review for you, which I must say I borrowed it by Brian Aldous Graybeard post many months ago. Oh, Bobby says, Retro, you are out of this world. She certainly is. Gary Carpenter says, so is my sister as well. Retro Nerd Girl says Dee Wallace was an excellent scream queen in the 70s. She sure was. Cujo was the big one that pops into my mind. But wasn't she in The Hills Have Eyes? The original one? Zuplik says Lost in Space went for the kiddie market when they focused on Dr. Smith and Will Robinson. Gary Carpenter says Peter Graves and James Arnaz are brothers. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. So is Lou Ayres another brother? Is it like the Carradines? John Bernstein says I rarely get 30 degrees here and really goes over 100. Yes, it's the most expensive place on earth. Bobby Renee says host. The Scream Queen was the little girl in Aliens. Oh, Newt. Gotcha. Gary Carpenter says Z. I found a cartoon pilot for Lost in Space with Dr. Smith, the original one. Yeah, that was from like the 70s. That was on like they put that in like a cartoon showcase, but you're right, it was supposed to be a pilot for a Saturday morning cartoon series that was not picked up. Terrell Eugene Bellinger is in the house. Welcome. So glad you could make it. Says, hey, Thrash, sorry for my tardiness. Last live stream of 2022. Actually, I got one going on this Thursday, but close. The last Monday of 2022. But I'm so glad you could make it. Lance Javen says, Bobby, you meant Newt. Yes, I'm certain he did. Zublik says the same is almost true here where I live, except it never reaches the 30s. Tom says, Bob, make sure you send me your address. I certainly will. I'll give you a call tomorrow. John Collins says, Bob and everyone, if I at least tried to do one live stream on YouTube, knowing me the way y'all do, what would my topic be and how many would come over? What time is best? I think you get a lot of mileage out of the depiction of persons with disabilities in entertainment. And 8 o'clock seems to be the magic number. And might have luck on Wednesdays because Dave isn't always doing shows on Wednesdays now. Mike Silva says, if it's Martin Shoot to Kill, then I can be in Spawn. Mike, welcome to the party, man, by the way. Oh, and by the way, I love he was posting his flavor of the week this week was the theme song to Land of the Lost, which is one of my favorite Cinematic Craft shows of all time. John Doe says, Zoinks! Oh, and Daily Dan, our retro link guru, has just put a link to Retro Nerd Girl. So thank you. For those of you who haven't subscribed, and I can't believe any of you people on my channel wouldn't have already subscribed to Retro Nerd Girl. But if you haven't, please take that link and subscribe to Retro Nerd Girl. She has some of the best, most comprehensive, and very entertaining retrospects on vintage science fiction available on YouTube today. So please check her out. Lance Javen says the Stooges has Scream Kings. That certainly counts. Mike Silva says a silver bullet. There's Coors Light in your gun. I heard a joke about that, about how to get rid of a werewolf with a silver bullet, but Retro Nerd Girl says Barbara Steele is another, and you just jumped. Give me a second. I'll try to catch you back. I'm almost caught up, though. There it is. Barbara Steele is another one for Hammer Films. Amazing lady. I remember her from Black Sunday, the Mario Bava masterpiece. Mike Silva says Retro Piranha 1978 movie directed by John Sayles. My mother used to work with his brother. Amazing filmmaker. Retro Nerd Girl, thanks Dan for sharing the link. And again, people, please use it. Tom says Mike Piranha is on YouTube. It certainly is. I watched it on YouTube not long ago. Mike Silva, I don't think this case calls for minoxidil. Zublik says, I don't remember a Lost in Space cartoon series. Um, there was only the pilot, and they showed it. There was a Saturday morning cartoon showcase where each week they would do, they called it like the Saturday morning movie or something. I forget. This is back in the 70s. And it aired there, but it had been intended to be a pilot for a Saturday morning cartoon with Lost in Space. Teb says, how come nobody ever talk about Jill Sholin, who starred in a few horror films in the late 80s? The Stepfather, When a Stranger Calls Back, and Robert England's Phantom of the Opera. Good point. Well, talk away. Gary Garber says, yeah, yeah. Mike Silva says, here come the judge. Here come the judge. I used to love Flip Wilson when I was a kid. John Doe says, I have a few Barbara Steele movies. She was phenomenal. She certainly was. Teresa Rosmeyer says, the young lady in the Michael Jackson's Thriller video. She did something else and I can't remember it. It's killing me. But yeah, she was excellent. Retro Nerd Girl says Mike Silva saw that in the theater when it came out. Scary. Mike Silva says Married with Children Shazam TV show. Was she in those? Take your word for it. Les Javen says, Terrell, have you checked the children? My best friend growing up, his kid sister watched that movie and it like freaked her out. I just saw her. She actually came into my restaurant on Christmas Eve with her husband's family for dinner. But I remember she like couldn't for like a month she couldn't stop talking about that movie because it like just freaked her out terribly. Mike Silva says retro. It was hilarious spoof of Jaws. Um, Snow Beast, or are we talking about another spoof of Jaws? There were many spoofs of Jaws's. I just jumped again, so I'm gonna have to try to. Oh, here we are. Tom says, speaking of the hills have eyes, met Michael Berryman once 20 years ago. The guy who gave me all those great videos that I did the unboxing for, he worked with Berryman in Saturday the 14th. Mike Silva says it might be just the Bumpus's dogs. We're not sure. Who didn't see that movie this year? Mike Silva says, speaking of Land of the Lost, have you seen the 2009 film? Yes, and I despised it. I'm so sorry. I know a lot of people liked it, but it just wasn't. They just deviated so much from the source material. I couldn't. Retro Nerd Girl says, did anybody mention Linda Blair? She was awesome. No one has, but I actually met her. She was doing autograph signing at a convention I was at years ago. Very nice, approachable woman. I actually freaked her out a little. I said, I'm your biggest fan. And she was kind of like, I forgot that celebrities don't like that. Gary Carver says, Sissy Spacek. Yes. Although she made people do the screaming in Gary. Les Chafin says Linda Blair in Hell Night. I have that movie somewhere in my collection. John Doe says Linda Blair in Night Patrol. I remember that. Retro Nerd Girl says, thank you for the nice compliment, Thrash Ponda Ponswell. You're very welcome, and you deserve every syllable of it. You put out some amazing material. David May. Welcome to the party, David May. So glad you could make it tonight. David, we're talking about Scream Queens at this time. He says there was a Dracula series on Netflix a while back that was pretty good. I don't recall that one. I love me Netflix. I've been binge watching. I recently discovered Love, Death, and Robots, and I've like fallen in love with it. I love science fiction and animation, and John Burton says my favorite Sid and Marty Krofft show was HR Puffin Stuff. Where you go when things get rough. HR Puffin Stuff. You can't do a little because you can't do enough. Superlux says Linda Blair was the perpetual victim in a lot of her early work. She certainly was. Oh, David May says happy Boxing Day, and happy Boxing Day to you as well. Lance Javen says Linda Blair, Savage Streets. I don't know if I've seen that one. Mr. Lid says my family and I watched A Christmas Story Christmas last night. It was cute and an homage to Darren McGavin. That's a sequel. Haven't seen it yet, but I've actually heard some good things. Gary Carpenter says a Z. Linda Blair was in Reprocessed. I don't think I've seen that one either. Mike Silva says watching this video with a family member, they said you don't mention the Croft Super Show. Um, I remember the Croft Super Show. In fact, they adapted Land of the Lost for one of the segments. It was sort of a crossover with HR Puff and stuff was in it. The Land of the Lost dinosaurs and Dr. Shrinker. I forget what the name of it was. And here's one for you. Harvey Lembeck. Give me a second. I always get these two mixed up. I believe Harvey Lembeck was an actor. He's probably best known. He was um, the comic relief in Stalag 17. He was in those old beach movies. He played the head of the biker gang. His son Michael Lembeck, uh, who was in One Day at a Time. He married Mackenzie Phillips in the show. But he was head of Captain Cool and the Kongs. He played Captain Cool. Uh, and I jumped again, so I'm gonna have to backtrack here because I know I've missed something. Lance Javen says Jill Sholin in popcorn, buy a bag, go home in a box. Ooh, that sounds terrifying, horrifying. Big Guys 45 says message retracted, and message retracted to you as well. So Black says Repossessed had the unknown comic who always dressed in a brown paper bag. All right, now I remembered. Thank you. I remember that movie now. John Collins says I would like to do some real world topics. I suppose they could center around disability. I wouldn't want to siphon off half or more of the potential audience. However, I am voraciously opinionated. I don't know if voraciously is the right word, but anyway, anyone have any other topics that John could dig into? Um, please pass them on to him. Greta Reminds goes land shark, candygram, pizzagram. David May says a lot of dumb shark movies now, and they all stem from Jaws. Gary Carpenter says happy Boxing Day to David May as well. Mindy Butler says Scream Queen I guess, are final girls like Nev Campbell. Nev Campbell counts. No, she's a great one. Gary Carpenter says Lou Ayers is not related to them. Okay, all right. That clears that up. Mike Silva says hated it too, Pawns. Yeah, I think a lot of people did, but some people liked it, and to own their each. Mike Silva says the creators hated that movie. I believe that too. Zuplik says we should discuss someday the lack of handicapped representation in the show business industry. Good topic. John Doe says there was a Dracula TV show in the late 80s, Saturday afternoon. He was fighting the family next door. Every time he lost, he turned into a bunch of bats and flew in different directions. Why don't I remember this? I'm not like seriously. Why don't I remember? That would stand out in my memory. Teb says I'm very aware of. I always get her name wrong. Linny Quigley. But what about Brink Stevens, Michelle Bauer, Barbara Crampton, and Ashley Lawrence? Barbara Crampton is my personal favorite. She of course was from Reanimator, uh, among others. She was my favorite. Leanne Quigley from Return of the Living Dead, again among others, is great. They were talking about Brink Stevens. She was in Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Ballerama. Michelle Bauer's ringing a bell, but I can't put a pin to it. And Ashley Lawrence. So I know I've seen stuff that they were in. I just can't place any of it. So Ashley Lawrence and Michelle Bauer, feel free to give me a. For instance, Zublik says message retracted, and a message retracted to you as well. Um, Uh, oh, Ashley Lawrence Hellraiser. Okay, thank you, thank you. I've heard of that one. Zublik says David May is from Great Britain, quite possibly. You have to ask him. Madonna, Scream Queen. I haven't seen her scream in any of her movies. Mike Silva says my family member and I saw It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve. Oh, that's one of my favorites. Probably my favorite authentic Christmas movie. Gary Cameron says Beverly Garland in The Alligator People. That's a good one. I love that movie. Um, uh, Lon Chaney Jr. was in that. John Bernstein says Lidsville. Lidsville is the kookiest. Bobby Renee says host. Yes. Only reason I subscribed to Netflix was for the Star Trek animated series like 2 years ago. I remember when that was on first run. I love the Star Trek animated series. It's actually considered canon in the TOS. Love it. Absolutely love it. Retro Nerd Girl says Linda Hamilton is known for being a strong protagonist, but she did a lot of screaming in the original Terminator and the Children of the Corn. Yeah, that's the thing that I said early on, Miss Nerd Girl. I don't know if you caught it, but there's sometimes there's a fine line between heroine, a badass heroine, and a scream queen. Sometimes they can be both. That was the great thing about Linda Hamilton and the Terminator franchise. She sort of evolved from a scream queen. Actually, scream would be the combination of the two words. But I'll stick with scream queen. And transformed into this super heroine and did a very convincing job. Teb says, which TV show premiered in 1993 do you really love the most? X Files, Frasier, Boy Meets World, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, The Nanny, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, or Diagnosis Murder. I'm gonna have to go with the X Files. Did like Frasier, never watched Boy Meets World. Um, Power Rangers were when I was over at my friend's house and his kids were watching it, it would be on. Um, didn't watch The Nanny much or Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, although Jane Seymour is amazing. And Diagnosis Murder, no. So I'm going to stick with X Files. Of course. Who saw that coming? Uh, oh, Tom says back in a few, got to get a brew. Yeah, get a brew for me too. I'm stuck with this Dasani water. I drank all mine last night. Zublik says that's a toughie. It's between X Files and Frasier. I agree. Frasier would have to be my second choice as well. John Doe says, "Is Thrash the goat of YouTube?" Um, all right, I'll be the goat of YouTube. You know what? Nah. Oh, and what do sheep say at Christmas? Bah, humbug. Sorry. Les Javen says Linda Hamilton in Black Moon Rising with Tommy Lee Jones. I saw that in a drive-in theater. Oh, and the bad guy. Oh, what was his name? He's in my favorite war movie. He was in Bridget Remagen. The guy from Men from Uncle died recently. He was in. Not only was he in the Magnificent Seven, he was in one of the remakes of the Magnificent Seven. Battle Beyond the Stars. It'll come to me eventually, but yeah, he was the bad guy in it. I'm gonna have to skip down because I think I'm getting uh way behind. Oh, Robert Vaughn. Thank you, thank you. Uh, yeah. Wow, I'm way behind. I'm gonna read through these really, really quick. Just John Collins says, did anybody know that Louis Anderson had a small part in Ferris Bueller's Day Off? However, it was cut from the film. Didn't know that. Dan says, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. You have no idea how it is. Be nice. Zublik says, I didn't. No, I didn't. R.I.P. Louis Anderson. Tom says Harvey Lindbeck was also on the Phil Silver Show. He certainly was. Almost caught up. Tom says Robert Crampton was also went topless. She did, didn't she? Mike Silva is not a fan of Power Rangers pawns. Yeah, I was a little old for the Power Rangers. Uh, Daryl Jones says Esla Lanchester, Bride of Frankenstein. She certainly screamed in that one. I'll give you that much. John Doe says Madonna is a scream queen. When I see her, I scream, but I'm bumped. Keith E says Linda Harrison was from a small town in Berlin, Maryland, and my father pointed out her house 100 times when we drove by. Daryl Johnson says, "Good boy." Mike Silva says, "Sniff, sniff." I just heard "Goodbye, England's Rose." Yes, and Robert Bond. Oh yeah, a bunch of people knew it was Robert Bond. Thank you, thank you. I don't know how I could have forgotten that. Gary Carver says all of the Croft shows were good. Terrell Eugene Bellinger says Linda Hamilton's real life twin sister had a cameo in T2 Judgment Day as a duplicate of Sarah Connor. That is an amazing trivia. I never knew that. I never knew that. That's great. I didn't even know she had a twin sister. I may have known it at some point and forgotten. That happens to me a lot. I find people are mentioning facts to me, and I'm like, I could not have not known that over the years. At some point, someone would have mentioned that to me, so I must have just forgotten it. Like for example, one of my top 10 albums of all time is Meatloaf's "Bat Out of Hell," and the cover art was done by my favorite comic book artist of all time, Richard Corbin. There's no way I could have not known that. Someone, when I was in high school, someone would have had to have told me that. So I must have just forgot it. Then I relearned it about 20 years ago, and I've known it since. But when it was like when I relearned it, uh, Ziplik says, "Why is Power Ranger still on the air?" I don't know. Uh, Gary Cameron says Beverly Garland and the Alligator People. Again, yes. Retro Nerd Girl says Carolyn Monroe did a lot of screaming in for Hammer films, although she is mostly known for being a Bond girl. She certainly was, and I remember for some of those Amicus films, like was it At the Earth's Core and a couple others, but Carolyn Monroe was amazing. She certainly was, and she would certainly count as a scream queen. Mike Silva says if someone mentions MMPR in more one more time, I will make another laugh in joke. Okay. Let's just see. Let's just cigarettes were not kind to Linda Hamilton. Oh no, no, they certainly were not. Mike Silva says, Gary, is that a chicken joke? I hope not. Zuplik says, did you know the most scripted television series of all time is One Piece from Japan? And it gave more than a, a thousand episodes. Has more. Gasmore. It has more than 1,000 episodes. That's crazy. Mike Silva says Star Crash movie pawns. Ah, yeah, she was in that too, wasn't she? John Doe says Linda Hamilton twin passed away recently within 5 years. Oh, that's sad. That's sad. Zublik says Linda Harrison was the non-scream queen. Wait, Linda Harrison or Linda Hamilton? Linda Harrison was from the Planet of the Apes movies, and she was mute, so she didn't really scream in that. Linda Hamilton was from the Terminator movies, among others. Mike Silva says sorority babes in Slimeball Bolorama Pawns. Oh yes, yes, yes. I promise I'm gonna watch it and talk about it next time. I promise. I meant to this time, but with the holidays, it kind of get away from me. Um, John Collins says, "Zoop, you're right about severe underrepresentation in entertainment around persons with disabilities. You'd be surprised how much pushback there is from people, whether there's a need for representation." Bobby Renee says, Host, just remind others here. YouTube has Trilogy of Terror, The Gargoyles, and oh, it just occurred to me. When you say host, you're talking to me. I thought you were referring to the film, The Host. Okay. Now I have a little context here. I'll start again, but it'll make more sense. Host, just to remind others here, YouTube has Trilogy of Terror, The Gargoyles, Scream of the Wolf, and the Norless tapes. Great ones. I don't think I've seen the Norless tapes. I've seen the others. In fact, I think I have a couple of them. The Trilogy of Terror is fantastic. Karen Black plays four different parts in three different shorts. It's amazing. Zuplik says, yes, in the Harrison, Linda Harrison. I'll try to fill in best I can. Linda Harrison couldn't speak, although she does say one word in the two movies she's in. I'll let you guys see if you can remember what that was. Mr. Lynn says Linda Hamilton starred in Beauty and the Beast. She certainly did with Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman played the Beast. Lance Javen says Linda Harrison played Nova T. Pons. Yes, yeah, that was her character's name, Nova. Sorry. She also did pilot for Wonder Woman around the same time Batman came out. Let's see what else. Michael says just so much litter on the highway. People can start pollution. People can stop it. Teb says 3 actresses on Just the 10 of Us, the Growing Pains spinoff, have all appeared in a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Yes. Excellent point. And of course, one of my I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm so scratchy tonight. The daughter who played Constance is in the Outfield video, Your Love. Superlick says, movies are about wish fulfillment, and in the world, people don't want to deal with the handicap. That's why I enjoy realistic movies. I don't know. My Left Foot was an amazing movie. Mike Silva says, Barbara Feldon, I have nothing against Hugh Hefner personally. It's just that I object to anyone building an empire based on the moral standards of a rabbit. I'll buy that. I'll buy that. Mr. Lynn says, buffering Thresh. Yeah, I was actually buffering on my side too. Folks, if I'm still buffering, let me know. Because it seems to have stopped, at least on my end, but if it's still buffering on your end, please let me know. Dan says, and the one would. Oh, I'm sorry. And the one word was astronauts. Name that your only hint. I thought that was that the word? The astronaut's name? Well, we'll certainly see about that. Lens, I think it's a different word, but we'll because someone's going to come up with it. Actually, yes. Gary Carpenter just came up with it. Les Chafin says, Thrash, call it a night, rest your voice. I'm going to give it a few more minutes. We've been doing this, an hour? Give it a few more minutes. If the situation deteriorates, I might have to call it a little bit early tonight, but I'll try to press on. Superplex says, there are too many superhero movies today. I wish there went back to the gritty filmmaking of the 70s. Oh, I know the old Maverick filmmakers, yes. Oh, Teb says, "How was your Christmas, Thrash?" It was excellent. It was very subdued. Daughter brought her boyfriend over, and my brother-in-law came over, and it was just the immediate household members and just a couple extras, and we had Chinese and Italian food, and then we exchanged gifts. It was very nice. Superlook says, "My left foot was a rare bird." T-Pawns. No, there have been plenty of others. Ice Castles was another one, but I do see what you mean. Mr. Lid says, Mr. Z, when are you going live stream? That's a good question. Mandy Butler says Candygram. Candygram. Telegram. Mike Silva says Brenda Felden. We really learned the three R's: reading, writing, and rhythm. Zublik says, never, Mr. Led. I am not as gifted as Dave or T. Pons. Zoop, I've seen you do live. I'm sure you could do your own show and do even better than me. Mike Silva says, bye, Pons. Oh, Mike, you got to leave? Well, thank you very, very, very much for joining us tonight. Sorry you got to go. I may be wrapping up a little early tonight myself because of the whole throat thing. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Take care of yourself. Mr. Lynn says, I don't believe you. I'm not sure in regards to what, but I'm sorry if I was a liar. Tom says, I'm back, got my beer. As my granddad always says, there's only one beer I look forward to. My next one. Mindy Butler says, I always say Candygram when I am asked who's there. Love it. Love it. Elizabeth says, T-Pons is not leaving Mike. Oh, no, I think he is. But I'm going to endeavor to persevere, at least for a little while. Lance Chapin says, bye, folks. See you on the next stream. Shooting for Thursday, probably 8 o'clock. Lance, thank you so much for joining us, and great topic, by the way. We got a lot of mileage out of it. A lot of people saying goodbye to Lance. Welcome back, Hungry Jerk. John Collins says, Bob, if we were all in a huge finished basement, all 17 or 20 of us, Mom would be as talkative and gregarious as you are now. It would be awesome if we could all snack and have some beverages together. That sounds like fun. That does sound fun, doesn't it? Zuplex says, no way, T-Pons, you are the best. Zuplex, you honor me. Oh my gosh, Emily Miller is in the house. Emily, how you doing? So great you could make it. Don't worry about being late. Just forgive us if we end up wrapping up not long after you get here. But so nice you to make it. Kind of got into TV show. No problem. We're kind of talking about old sci-fi horror movies and the Scream Queens, but things are kind of wrapping up a little bit now. But Emily, very glad you could make it. Mr. Lid says, never you, Thrash. I was talking to Mr. Z. Okay. Now I'm with you. Retro Nerd Girl says, I have to go now. Thanks for this fun chat about movies. Happy New Year. Retro Nerd Girl, thank you so much for joining us. I understand if you have to go. Please keep putting out that great content. And again, people, if you haven't subscribed to Retro Nerd Girl, please do it as soon as possible. Check out some of her older posts. They were amazing. And Retro Nerd Girl, Happy New Year. Bobby Renee, who's just joining us tonight for the first time, is like, hi, Emily, you're famous here. She certainly is. Oh, John Doe says, greatest of all time. GOAT. Got it. It's an anagram. I love it. You actually put that earlier. I kind of glossed over it. Terribly sorry, John. But yes, I shall be the GOAT. The scapegoat. Sorry. And Miller says, Bobby, I don't know about famous, more like infamous. Oh, well stated. And Bobby Renee goes on to say, Emily, I mean famous in my eyes. Oh, that's very kind of you. Tom says, Bat Out of Hell is the fourth largest selling album of all time. That I knew. I knew it was in the top 10. Teb says, which TV show premiered in the year 2000 do you really love the most? Malcolm in the Middle, Curb Your Enthusiasm, CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, Gilmore Girls, Survivor, Jackass, or Big Brother. I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of really any of those shows. I'm so sorry. I watched some of them, didn't hate them, but never a huge fan. I'm sorry. If any of you guys are, please use the chat to pop yours in. Emma Miller asks, are you doing Thursday night too? Yes, I am. Probably same time, probably 8 o'clock. As always, early in the day, I'll post here and on Facebook specifics. I'll be doing tonight a bit longer if my voice is holding. I'm starting to get this like scratch thing, which is odd because I feel fine. But I don't know. The throat's a little scratchy for some reason. Zerplick says, if Emily did live chats, backdrop would be tons of cats, quite probably. A lot of people saying good night to each other. It's so sweet when people have fellowship. But I skip over the comments. So people wandering around going, you know, I don't need to read up all the hellos and goodbyes. Emily Miller says, Terrell never really watched any of those. Too busy having my fourth baby. I'm taking care of a toddler. Your last child was born in 2000. And she goes on to say, Zuplex cats and Ouija boards. Oh, good combination. Gary Carpenter says, Emily, stay away from those boards. Oh, I got a couple great stories about those. Keith E says, Emily, can you be bad for the next 350 days? I'm sure she could manage. Zuplex says, coronavirus. Blah, blah, blah. Coronavirus. No, it's just I lost the ability to talk. It's not the coronavirus, but thank you for your concern. John Collins says, Bob, when it says mom, remember that I used to speech to text, and your name, Bob, sounds like mom if I'm not careful. So when it says mom, I mean to say Bob, similar to when it says babe when I say Dave. Gotcha. So you weren't referring to somebody's mom. But I was going back to like, remember when you were in school, you had friends come over, your mom always came over with snacks. You almost had to. My friends were chronic eaters. You might find that hard to believe. Tom says, met Linda Harrison 5 years ago. Greatest chick ever. You didn't have to listen to her. Just joking. Emily Miller says, pfft, Gary, they haven't killed me yet. Good point. Good point. John Doe says, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. Freaking awesome. I did watch that show on occasion. Around then I worked nights, so I didn't get to watch a lot of like nighttime television. Well, I work nights now. But I watch much nighttime TV here. But of course, now you can pause it and stream it and yada and yada. Back then, you had to actually videotape it and play it later. Keith E says, John using the old series to text excuse. Oh, Emily Miller says, Keith, when I'm good, I'm good. But when I'm bad, I'm even better. Ooh. Zublik says, I envy you and Daryl Zanuck. Yes. And I believe they were married. Linda Harrison and Zanuck were married eventually. Not when she was doing the Planet of the Apes movies, but later. Teb says, I'll have to leave now. I've got some things to take care of before I go to sleep. See you on Thursday. Yes, please do. And please have more TV lineups, by the way. We get a lot of mileage out of those, Teb. And thank you for joining us. Take care. Emily Miller says, Gary, I'm almost 55 and used them for years. I'm fine. He goes on to say, take care of it. We knew what you meant. Skipping down. I think I'm actually caught up. Crazy. Mr. Lynn says, good night, Terrell and Daryl. Hey, that rhymed. I must confess, this is going to sound weird because they have different starting letters. I used to, when Dave was talking about Terrell and Daryl, I used to confuse the two of them. Again, because the names are so similar. Oh, Bobby Renee says, Emily, in the military, she gives purple hearts. Love it. John Collins says, Bob, being that you are a bartender among other endeavors within the restaurant setting, which mixed drinks do you develop the most on a given shift? And which mixed drinks do you develop the least? We have some specialty cocktails that we make a lot of. Probably the most popular one is the limoncello martini. As far as drinks we make the least, well, we make the least, we don't make it all. I haven't made the cement mixer in years. In fact, someone actually asked me how to make a cement mixer, and I had to look it up. I hadn't made a cement mixer in years. Uh, Simply says, "When are you going to use the new computer T-Pawns?" Number one granddaughter is on school vacation this week. She promised me that she would help me set it up. Oh, I got some other new equipment too, by the way. It's a surprise. But hopefully, I don't know if I'll have it for Thursday's chat, but definitely by the beginning of the new year. Tom says after 9 in Boston. Yes, it is. It's 9/11 actually. Otherbook says question: Who are the best tippers? Usually the people you've never waited on before. Usually people who are from out of town and they come in and they're not really expected to be treated like royalty because uh, there's this misconception that you take care of the regulars and you kind of don't take care of the people who are just passing through because you're never going to see them again. But as the consummate professional that I am, I always treat people like they're returning royalty. And some people really appreciate that. And I've had people give me like outstanding tips and said, "We've never been here. You made us feel like family. Thank you." And here's $100 on a $184 check. That type of situation. Um, but those are kind of few and far between. Oh, buffering again. You know what, guys? I think. I even see the buffering on my end. I think we might have to call it a little bit early tonight. We've been going for what, about an hour and a quarter? Between my throat giving out, I'll have to get something a little better than just Dasani water for the next one. I'll get some ginger ale or something. Flat ginger ale usually does best. And the fact that I've been buffering, I think might be a sign that we should probably wrap this up. But I want to thank all you guys for joining us. It was actually a fairly eventful. We had a lot going on this one, considering I don't think we did we pass 20 at any point. You guys have been very interactive, and I really appreciate it. And we had a new member today, Bobby Renee, who says, "Host, this chat room is like the Cheers bar. And when you walk in, we will go, Bobby! All together now, Bobby!" Instead of Norm. Thank you. But, also, Blix asks, are bikers good customers or terrible customers? I've waited on a number of bikers over the years, and believe it or not, they're usually very nice people. They tend to tip big, and the only time you ever have to worry about them is if you do something stupid, like mess with them. And I don't, but I'm just like saying there'll be some young kid at the end of the bar who's like, "Oh, you guys think you're tough, huh?" And the kid, don't, no, don't, But all the bikers I've met have actually been uh, very nice people. Now I've heard horror stories about some maybe not being so nice, but all the bikers I've ever met have been very nice, very good tippers, and they have some great stories. So by and large, I'd say bikers are actually great customers. Oh, and if any of you have ever been to Daytona, that's a blast during bike week. Emily Melissa Zuplex, there are bikers and there are motorcycle riders, two different groups. Bikers are usually pretty nice as a whole. Again, Emily couldn't agree with you more. Bobby Renee says, "Oops, I've been canceled. Thanks, host." No one here canceled you. I promise. I promise. No one here canceled you. And the fact that you can actually still post shows. Zubook says, "Tried Tristan. I can't. I'm on high blood pressure medicine." Yeah, still buffering. Still buffering. Okay, guys. I think I'm gonna have to just sort of. I'm gonna call this one. I'm gonna get well. Again, it's good. I should say. Thank you so much for joining us. Ian will eventually be back to doing the Monday nights, but I didn't want you guys to be forgotten. So in the interim, I'll be doing the Monday nights for a while until Ian C can make it back to the Monday nights. I will also see you guys this coming Thursday. I'm guessing open topic as always. But until then, be good, be safe, be careful. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. And again, thank you so, so much for coming out tonight. Peace.